Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Riches are not handed to those who wait. They are built in the furnace of thought. Wealth is first imagined before it is earned. Every fortune, every empire, every dynasty began with a mind that refused to accept the limits of circumstance. Thought is the seed, and the seed must be watered with relentless conviction. You cannot stumble into prosperity by chance. You must sculpt it in the silence of your own mind until it hardens into a vision that no storm can destroy. Riches follow thought because thought commands action, and action shapes reality. To think without direction is to drift. To think with precision is to plant the blueprint of wealth itself. Conviction is the dividing line between dreamers and builders. Everyone imagines comfort, but only those who lock their mind onto one vision bend the world to serve it. Doubt poisons, distraction dilutes, but conviction carves. The man who holds one idea clear and burning begins to see resources others ignore. He begins to notice opportunities others overlook. His thought shapes his perception, and his perception shapes his path. Wealth does not chase the scattered. It bows to the focused. To grow rich is to narrow your attention until nothing can shake it. Desire is the engine of growth, not idle wanting, but burning hunger that refuses silence. Riches do not come to those who merely hope. They come to those whose desire bleeds into every thought, every action, every choice. The mind saturated with desire will not allow complacency. It will push, claw, and force its way forward. Desire creates obsession, and obsession builds persistence. Persistence is the furnace that melts resistance into submission. Every man who grew rich first grew ravenous in mind. His riches began as a fire no one else could see. Belief is the bridge between thought and wealth. Without belief, thought is only fantasy. With belief, thought becomes command. The man who believes acts as though riches are already his. His posture changes, his speech shifts, his energy carries weight. Others sense it, and the world responds. Opportunities appear not because the world is kinder to him, but because his belief forces him to act where others hesitate. Belief removes hesitation. It removes fear. It transforms thought into action with the certainty of inevitability. To grow rich, you must believe long before evidence arrives. Discipline is the skeleton of wealth. A mind filled with vision but empty of discipline collapses under its own weight. Riches demand structure, daily action, and ruthless elimination of waste. Every fortune is built brick by brick, and every brick is laid through discipline. The one who wakes early, who organizes his hours, who respects the value of time, builds a fortress around his vision. The undisciplined leak their wealth through distraction and indulgence. Discipline is the lock that guards the vault of your potential. Without it, even the clearest thought evaporates into failure. Sacrifice is the payment wealth demands. Comfort cannot be held if riches are to be seized. Sleep, leisure, fleeting pleasures, all must be placed on the altar of growth. The man who refuses sacrifice refuses riches. The man who embraces it multiplies his return. Every luxury delayed becomes capital invested. Every moment withheld from distraction becomes progress gained. To grow rich is not to cling to comfort, but to trade it for legacy. Those who avoid sacrifice stay where they are. Those who welcome it climb higher than the world thought possible. Adversity is the test that separates pretenders from the destined. Every pursuit of wealth meets walls, failures, betrayals, and losses. The majority turn back, blaming fate, blaming luck, blaming life. The few endure. They see adversity not as a stop, but as a teacher. Every loss shows where they must grow. Every rejection sharpens their strategy. They absorb pain and convert it into fuel. Wealth does not go to those who avoid adversity, but to those who master it. The scars of the journey become the signature of the rich. Faith in the unseen keeps the mind moving when the world mocks. To think and grow rich is to plant a vision in barren soil and tend to it even when no sprout appears. Most abandon their seed when results are slow. The rich continue watering. They continue believing. Faith is what sustains effort long enough for results to arrive. The greatest fortunes were once invisible ideas, carried by men and women who refused to let them die. Faith turns invisible thoughts into undeniable outcomes. Imagination is the workshop of wealth. To see only what is in front of you is to stay bound by what already exists. To imagine is to create a bridge into what does not yet exist. Every invention, every business, every empire was once only an idea. Those who grew rich were those who dared to imagine beyond the ordinary. Imagination opens doors that discipline and sacrifice can then walk through. To grow rich, you must dream vividly, and then anchor that dream with the steel of action. Men are judged not by what they inherit, but by what they build from nothing. Riches earned through thought, sacrifice, and endurance are respected because they are proof of transformation. Avoidance, laziness, and hesitation guarantee poverty of both wallet and soul. Obsession, belief, and persistence guarantee wealth that multiplies. To think and grow rich is to understand that the mind is the origin of fortune. To command your thoughts is to command your future. To command your future is to master the art of growth itself. The first game is survival. In this arena, money is the master and you are the servant. Every decision bends to its control. You wake up not to live, but to keep bills from swallowing you. Rent, food, debt, and obligations chain your thoughts from sunrise to sunset. The survival game makes money feel evil because it owns you completely. It dictates your movements and poisons your freedom. In this game, there is no space for vision or authenticity, only a scramble to not be crushed. This is where most people remain their entire lives, thinking this is all life offers. Survival mode strips dignity because it forces you to trade time for scraps, energy for bare necessities, and dreams for delayed promises. The second game is success. In this stage, money becomes a scoreboard, not a master. You are no longer suffocating, but you are enslaved in a new way. You earn not just to survive, but to matter in the eyes of others. The car, the house, the title, the reputation. These are no longer tools, but trophies. Money feels good here because it validates you, but it is still deceptive. Success's scoreboard traps you in comparison. You look left and right, never forward. You measure your value not against your potential, but against another man's possessions. This game feels like freedom, but it is another form of captivity. The applause of others becomes the leash you willingly wear. The third game is sacred. Here, money transforms into energy. It is no longer survival, no longer scoreboard, but a current that allows authentic creation. You are not working to escape hunger. You are not working to win applause. You are working because your existence itself is a form of value. Money becomes the byproduct of authenticity. It flows as a reflection of your contribution, not as a condition of your worth. In this stage, you are paid not for a mask, not for a performance, but for being yourself. This is why money feels good here. It aligns with truth. It becomes proof that living authentically generates energy others want to support. Every level of the money game exposes your relationship with power. At level 1, you have none. Money holds the power and you obey. At level 2, you share power with money, but the crowd influences every choice. At level 3, you reclaim power, and money serves you instead of ruling you. That shift is not external, it is internal. It requires breaking chains of fear, ego, and attachment. The man who reaches level 3 has suffered through both survival and success. He has endured the pain of scarcity and the trap of vanity. He has cut both cords to finally see money not as master or mirror but as fuel. The survival game feels evil because it erases humanity. People steal, betray, and degrade themselves when scarcity burns. In scarcity, morality bends because survival always takes precedence. That is why money feels dark here. But money is not evil. The desperation of survival is. In the success stage, money feels good but shallow. It flatters the ego without feeding the soul. It motivates competition without providing peace. Only in the sacred stage does money shed the illusions of evil and good. It simply becomes neutral energy, a current that reflects who you are. It can amplify corruption or authenticity. The choice lies in which level you choose to remain. Reaching the sacred stage requires more than strategy. It requires transformation. You must shift from fear to faith, from comparison to authenticity. You must stop asking what the crowd wants you to be and start asking what you were designed to create. This is not about laziness or indulgence. It is about ruthless honesty. The sacred stage demands you strip away the masks of survival and success until only the authentic self remains. That self, when expressed, creates value that no scoreboard can measure. The world pays you not because you are pretending, but because you are real. The irony of the money games is that most who think they want wealth only crave freedom from survival. They never move further because they cannot imagine beyond security. Others who escape survival fall into the trap of success, chasing endless validation. They never move further because they cannot imagine beyond competition. Few ever reach sacred wealth because it demands letting go of fear and ego. It demands trusting that authenticity is enough. That leap terrifies most, but it is the only leap that makes money lose its chains. Every man and woman must choose which game they will play. Some remain in survival their whole lives, calling money evil because they never had enough. Some die in the chase of success, worshipping the scoreboard without ever tasting peace. Few reach sacred wealth, and those few are the ones who create legacies. They are not remembered for what they owned, but for what they became. Their wealth is measured not in possessions, but in presence. They lived as themselves, fully, and money flowed as proof. The ultimate goal is not riches without meaning or security without freedom. The ultimate goal is to be paid to be yourself. That is sacred wealth. That is when money becomes aligned with truth. Survival makes money a chain. Success makes money a mask. Sacredness makes money a mirror that reflects authenticity. Everyone is playing one of the three money games. To stay at level 1 or 2 is to live owned by money. To reach level 3 is to master it. You are not living in an industrial economy anymore. You are not living in a system where muscle or land is the currency. You are living in a brain-based economy where ideas, perspective, and the raw chaos of your humanity are the new gold. Machines will outpace you in efficiency. Algorithms will outperform you in precision. Artificial intelligence will devour tasks that once required whole industries of men. The only arena left that belongs fully to you is the unpolished, unapologetic story of your mind. The scars, the failures, the passions, the obsessions, the reckless experiments, these cannot be replicated. This is where you separate yourself, not by hiding your edges, but by showing them. The danger of silence is irrelevance. If you keep your thoughts locked away, they die with you. If you bring them into the open, they become seeds for connection, creation, and influence. Your story, no matter how ordinary you think it is, becomes extraordinary when shared because no machine can counterfeit your exact oscillation between triumph and collapse. The highs and lows, when placed in public, create resonance. People do not connect to perfection. They connect to humanity. They connect to the one willing to show scars, to admit mistakes, to laugh at failures, and still rise again. That is the only edge that survives in a world where machines can mimic everything else. Failure is not just inevitable, it is the ticket in. You cannot share a human life without sharing collapse. The man who presents only victories is no different from a machine spitting out curated perfection. To demand growth from yourself means demanding failure first. Every stumble becomes proof that you are alive, that you are attempting, that you are reaching. This vulnerability is not weakness, it is proof of pursuit. The pursuit of a greater version of yourself requires you to bleed in public, to show the process, to let others see the bruises as well as the breakthroughs. That is how you claim your place in a brain-based economy. Machines will always outperform your logic, but they will never match your oscillation. Humanity is not linear. It rises and falls, burns and rebuilds, crashes and ascends again. The world is drowning in synthetic perfection. What it craves is truth, not truth in theory, but truth embodied in lived experience. Share the oscillation, and you anchor yourself as irreplaceable. Hide it, and you become another predictable voice, easily substituted, easily forgotten. The courage to show your raw edges is what cements your place as human in an age racing toward the mechanical. Distraction is the silent killer. Every notification, every empty opinion, every shallow temptation pulls you away from the work of creating your own imprint. The brain-based economy rewards depth, not distraction. The man who scatters himself will be erased by the current. The one who locks in, who refuses to dilute his focus, will build something impossible to copy. To share your thoughts, your experiments, your highs and lows requires presence. It requires you to silence the noise long enough to listen to yourself. If you cannot protect your focus, you cannot produce your truth. Every experiment you run in public is a declaration. It says you are not waiting for perfection, you are willing to fail in front of others. That is rare. That is what builds gravity. People are drawn to those who act without guarantees, who test openly, who reveal their process without shame. These experiments create not only growth for yourself, but also resonance for those watching. They learn through your oscillation, they connect through your authenticity, and they remember you because machines do not experiment. Machines execute. Only humans explore. The oscillation of your humanity is not a flaw, it is your signature. The breakdowns, the breakthroughs, the small wins, the crushing losses, they create rhythm, and rhythm is what people feel. Nobody follows perfection. They follow stories. They follow transformation. They follow the one who keeps showing up even when the path is jagged. This rhythm cannot be faked by a machine because it requires risk. It requires pain. It requires the courage to fail in pursuit of something greater. Show that rhythm, and you separate yourself from everything synthetic. Growth is always demanded by failure. Without failure, you remain still, trapped in the illusion of safety. The pursuit of your greater self requires a cycle of collapse and rebuild, of stretching beyond capacity, and then repairing with more strength. Share that cycle, and others will see themselves in you. They will see the reflection of their own struggles, and they will respect you not for being untouchable, but for being relentless. Relentlessness is respected because it proves you refuse distraction, refuse avoidance, and refuse surrender. The brain-based economy belongs to those who are willing to bleed in public, to share their ideas before they are perfect, to share their failures before they are resolved, to show the highs and lows without editing out the chaos. This openness is not weakness. It is power. It is the only thing machines cannot counterfeit. They can replicate style, but they cannot replicate scars. They can replicate knowledge, but they cannot replicate lived humanity. You hold the one advantage that no algorithm can copy: your oscillation. Competition is painted as a monster to scare you away from your own path. You are told the world is overcrowded, that everyone is fighting for the same position, that there is no space left for you. This narrative is repeated until it becomes a prison in your head. But look closely at reality, and the monster shrinks. Most people do not even step onto the field. 95% never attempt to build something meaningful. They dream, they talk, they scroll, they fantasize, but they do not try. They choose comfort over creation. They let fear silence them before they even start. Competition cannot exist where people never enter the arena. What you fear as overcrowded is mostly empty seats. The illusion grows because a fraction of people are loud. A handful of voices make noise online, showcasing their wins, exaggerating their reach, presenting their success as a barrier for everyone else. This 0.1% looks larger than life because you see them constantly. Their repetition creates the illusion of saturation. But their presence does not mean the field is full. It means the field is wide open except for a few players making enough noise to distract you. They are the exception, not the rule. If anything, their visibility proves that the space rewards persistence. They stayed long enough to be seen. That is not a reason to quit. That is a reason to keep going. Most people who claim to compete give up after 2 weeks. They start a business, post a few times, write a handful of ideas, and stop when results are not instant. They treat greatness like a vending machine. Insert effort, press a button, wait for instant reward. When it does not drop, they leave. That cycle repeats endlessly, which is why competition is smoke, not fire. The majority quit before the game even begins. The field clears itself of competitors because most people lack endurance. They mistake early silence for failure when it is only the natural resistance of starting. If you persist longer than 2 weeks, you already outrun most of the crowd. Endurance is the true separator, not talent, not resources, not connections. The man who refuses to stop becomes rare simply by staying in the race. What feels like an endless crowd in the beginning thins rapidly. The ones who make noise without substance fall silent. The ones who hoped for shortcuts vanish. What remains are the few who persist. And those few are not as many as you think. Competition dissolves the longer you endure. It was never about fighting the masses. It was about surviving their collapse. Fear of competition is often just an excuse to protect laziness. People tell themselves the market is full, the space is taken, the opportunity is gone. In truth, they use that illusion to justify doing nothing. The reality is that most markets are empty at the top. The top is not crowded because almost no one climbs that far. The climb itself filters people out. Fear convinces them to stop at the bottom, and they convince themselves it was because competition was too fierce. The truth is harsher. They stopped because they never had the patience to keep moving. The illusion of competition kills potential before it can be tested. How many ideas have been buried because someone believed too many others were already trying? How many projects were abandoned because someone assumed there was no space left? Yet if they had pushed further, they would have discovered silence where they expected noise. Most of the noise exists only in the early stage. Few survive to the later rounds. The game always looks crowded until you realize most people are spectating, not playing. The real battle is not against competitors. It is against distraction and self-doubt. Your energy leaks when you focus on imaginary rivals instead of sharpening your own craft. You waste years watching what others are doing instead of building what you could become. That is how competition wins without even being real. You surrender before the first move. The irony is that if you ignored the illusion and gave yourself fully to your work, you would discover that there are very few people left who can meet you at the level of persistence. Greatness does not need you to be the only one. It needs you to be the one who lasts. Even if others exist in your space, they cannot replicate your exact rhythm, your exact story, your exact persistence. Competition collapses when you realize you are not replaceable if you remain authentic and relentless. Machines can copy process. People can copy ideas. Nobody can copy your endurance in the face of resistance. That is the factor most underestimate, which is why so few survive the climb. The loudest competitors cannot block you. Their volume may distract, but their success does not erase your possibility. There is room for more than one. The economy of ideas is infinite. The brain-based world rewards originality, persistence, and authenticity. These are not finite resources. The field does not close when someone else wins. It opens wider because their win proves it is possible. What most see as a barrier is actually a signal. If one person did it, you can too. If 10 did it, you can still be the 11th.